Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Redefine Your Life. I'm Julia,
And I'm Faith.
and you get to see us for the first time. What? If you are watching
Woohoo!
this in the video form, you get to see our faces during this recording. If you are watching from the audio recording, please know that the video recording is available as well for your viewing pleasures. And today we would like to talk about Dharma. And I know the internet and there's a couple different definitions of Dharma and what it might be conceived to mean. But for us,
We like to think of Dharma as living in alignment with your soul's purpose.
yes. So we're going to dive into what that means to live in alignment with your soul's purpose and what that might look like for you and how it looks different from person to person, how it changes, and how to find it and figure out what it is for you and continue to figure out what it is as it changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think the reason too we wanted to bring this up, I've been navigating my career changes, and I know a lot of people, there's talk of the great resignation going on in the world right now because people are finding themselves working in a job that doesn't suit them, doesn't serve them, or maybe at one point did serve them and they grew out of, but didn't know how to change for themselves because of the way that our society tells us from even just such a young age that we have to pick a career and we have to stick with it for the next 50 years and then we can retire, and then after we retire we can do what we want with our lives. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just the way the working man is, and I just never have aligned with that. I don't
Mm.
know that I have ever really fully been confident in what I am here to do, besides that I'm here to help guide people and help people heal. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been in the same boat. I remember what's one of the first things that they tell you when you go to kindergarten, when you go to preschool. They ask you immediately, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that's a
Yeah.
really difficult decision to make. Like, are you kidding me? And you can't tell me that that goal is not going to change throughout your lifetime. You might find something that you love to do for this amount of time, like 10 years, and then you just wake up one day and you're like, this doesn't feel right to me anymore. And you have
Yeah.
every right to shift from that.
Hmm. Yeah, it's so true. Taryn agrees too. She's meowing behind me. If you guys heard that, but
I did a little
oh
bit.
yeah. It's so interesting because if you were to go back and look and see what kindergarten version of you wrote on that piece of paper, I'm curious to see, what it would be, what it would look like with your actual career, what you're doing right now.
You know
Even,
what? I was so terrified when I remember that exact moment when they were asking us like what we wanted to be when we grew up. And I remember just sitting there and having tears in my eyes as a kindergartner because I had never even thought about it. I was like, what do you mean? I'm so far away from being a grown up. Like, you
yeah,
know,
I don't
I've
even
always
know. Yeah, go ahead.
I've always picked singing. Like, I don't know what it is, but from day one, I remember
Oh,
writing down on that paper, I was like, I'm going to be a singer. And that's something that's followed me throughout my whole life. I have been singing my whole life, and it's something that I
mm,
find a lot of fun in. But when I was presented with the opportunity to make a career out of it, I didn't want it. It didn't feel right to me, which is where your soul's purpose comes in, because
mm,
I knew in that moment that that wasn't for me. And
mm.
I'm so glad still today because what we're doing right now, feels way more in alignment than having a career as a singer.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, even my idea of helping people when I was young, it looked like I always wanted to be a teacher, actually. And I'm not sure when that actually sat with me, like when that realization really happened. Sometime in middle school, going into high school, I just kind of was like, I feel like I'm, supposed to help people and heal them and help them learn somehow, but like, I don't know how. And when you're a kid, you're around all these other teachers, and both of my parents were teachers, and they were like, well, maybe you want to be a teacher. Well, my mom actually convinced me or talked me out of not being a teacher because when she was teaching at that time, when I was thinking about my career and college and stuff like that, she was working towards retiring, and she ended up retiring sooner than she had planned because the foundation of education in our society and in specifically New York and Buffalo was changing so much to be so strict, and it didn't align with her anymore. And she
Mhm.
didn't want to see something like that happen to me, where she knew how passionate I was and how I would bring different things to the table than most teachers. I didn't want to follow, I wanted to create
Yeah.
my own lesson plans. I wanted to help people in whatever way it felt right to me. And she knew that my creativity would be crushed that way. She knew that
Yeah.
that wouldn't be the way for me to be able to blossom and help people. So I ended up being a nurse, which did give me more freedom to teach, I guess, but
Yeah.
now it feels like it's limiting the way that I can heal people and help people heal, because
Mm.
it feels like the last resort of healing. And sometimes people, which I think is why I found so much joy in my job, was some people would be at that point of that rock bottom point where they were willing to do the work to get better, and almost like feeling like they have had enough of the life that they were living before that. Like, that's it. Like, I've had enough. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to change, And they had these moments, and it was so beautiful for me to be in that moment with them and encouraging them. Yes, this is the time. Like, now more than ever, this is proof that if you want to get out of this hospital bed and all you want is to get out of the hospital,
You're gonna do
anything
it.
from there is possible, right? Like, let's focus on this one little goal and how impossible this feels. And then when you get out, you can prove to yourself time and time again, with the right determination and continuing to come back to it, that you can do anything that you set your mind
Yeah.
to. It doesn't matter what, you know, is rewarded financially, because guess what? Like, financial stability right now is pretty hard to come by, even from people who have regular jobs. Like, I say
Mhm.
regular, like jobs that weren't affected by the pandemic, even those jobs are
Yeah.
having problems now. And there's mandates and there's regulations and there's all these different things that are going into effect that are, I mean, taking away our freedom. Like,
Yeah.
I know that it's
Yeah.
about the greater good, and I know why they want this mandate for everybody, but you're taking away our freedom. And we fled. I mean, historically, we fled
Yeah.
the Europeans fled the mother country back in the time of the freaking Mayflower, when we romanticized this fleeing. They were in horrible living conditions. They wanted freedom, religious
Mhm.
freedom. They wanted freedom to live their lives. And then we came here and we agreed to a system that is not free. It's
Yeah.
just not. I'm sorry. I don't mean to
Oh my
be that
god.
guy, but I didn't know this was the
Yeah.
direction our conversation was going to go, but it doesn't feel free. It doesn't. If I have to do a certain thing to get healthcare, I have to do a certain thing. It doesn't feel free.
Mhm.
It
Don't
feels
even
like,
get me started on healthcare.
yeah, no, we don't have to get there. That's always, healthcare feels so triggersome to me because I'm so passionate about it,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
passionate about helping people. But bringing it back to our Dharma, I think it just goes to show that each of those careers that I had thought for myself all stemmed from one feeling that I had inside of myself, one fire, the fire that I had inside myself to help people,
Mhm.
to help people heal specifically, because that's
Yeah.
specifically what I felt from the longest time. I've held such compassion for people in the healing process. And I think part of that is rooted to my dharma and what my soul is good at, so to speak. Like, we are all
Mhm.
gifted in some
Yeah.
way. And those gifts are written in our molecular DNA when we're born.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
they, more that we allow for that DNA to shine through, and for us to focus on that and not focus on what thing that we can monetize on within ourselves, what gifts we can monetize, and instead we focus on the gifts that feel good, that we get the reassurance and the validation from feeling
Right.
good, not from money. What is the
Right.
validation, right? Like,
What makes you happy?
mhm,
That's what you should be pursuing. That's what
right.
I did.
Yeah, like,
And it's
money doesn't make
funny.
people happy. We've clearly learned that. It might make you survive. Money is survival in some categories, but you can
Right.
have money and you can also not have happipiness. So,
It should not be the only goal.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, financial abundance is like something, money, people talk about money being an energy and stuff like that, and it's like, just as much as we believe that we deserve to be alive here, I think has a lot to do with the trauma of our world. If we tell people that they're less than us, and in that turn we categorize them in our brains as not being human and stuff like that, then we can do horrible things to them, like we do with
Mhm.
animals. We
Yeah.
categorize animals as not having a right to life just as much as we do as humans. So look at how we treat them. As soon
Mhm.
as we do that to each
Mhm.
other, that's how we treat each other. And
Yeah.
as soon as we do that, we start to devalue our own happiness and the things that we can do within ourselves to make ourselves happy. And then we start to wonder if we even deserve to be here, if
Mm.
we even deserve to feel happiness and stuff like that. And that's just generations of, this is what has manifested from generations of trauma. At least it's
Mhm.
what it feels like. This is what it feels like to me when I wake up every day and I'm so existential dread, like so much existential dread. And it's not every day. I shouldn't say every day,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
sometimes you just wake up and you're like, I just can't sit with the fact that the energy that I feel right now, like it probably isn't my own. It's probably like, if we don't think that our collective energy blends, even if we're not within 6 feet of each other, we're still affecting each other every single day with our energies. You know, I just
Yeah.
think it has a lot to do with, it has a lot to do with us blocking out that inner call.
Mhm.
And the more we block out the inner call, the less happy we are. So the more we're like, I've always wanted to be an artist, but that's not going to make me money and that's not going to be financial. So you push that outlet away from you and you focus on your job that does provide you a financial steady income, and think of how unhappy that makes you, right? It doesn't provide joy.
The financial abundance will come to you if you pursue your dharma.
Oh
If you are
yeah.
doing what you love and what makes you happy and what makes you feel whole inside, the financial abundance will come. Sometimes it'll take some time, but if you are living in alignment, the universe will give you everything that you need.
Mm-hmm. And if you're chasing after, but the thing is, I think when you talk about that, it makes me think, oh, if I'm living my purpose, then I'm going to be a millionaire, right? That's not what financial abundance looks
Yeah.
like. That's not
Let's
what
break
any
that
of that
down.
looks like. Yeah. So if we think of money as stability, like think of it
Mhm.
almost as a liquid. Let's think of money as a liquid. It's constantly being spread around, right? And even when you think of, like, I go to a restaurant and I tip, so I just leave a little bit of my liquid. I just pour a little bit out. I pour a little bit out, and like it just spreads and it keeps continuing to be spread. And then your cup that you have of your money, as you make money, it keeps getting poured in.
Mhm.
So if money's a liquid, why do we worry so much, like, about when it gets to a certain level, right? It's not empty. We never really reach full empty, but we start to panic the lower and lower it
Mm.
gets. But if you
Mhm.
think about how much of that liquid you really need on a day-to-day basis, you only need a little sip of water every day, right? You only really
Yeah.
need a little bit. So
Yeah.
if we don't stress too much about it and just know that it's going to keep coming to you as you spend it and as you exchange it, and where you're putting your heart in to spending your money is how it's going to come back to you too. So if you're
Absolutely.
supporting in things that you believe in, so if you're aligning with your purpose but you're still spending money on things that you don't believe in, that's not really aligning with your dharma either. It's aligning,
Yeah.
right? You said it's aligning with the, what was it, the greater good of the universe. I forget
I
what
don't
we looked
remember
up a bunch
exactly,
of
but
definitions. Yeah, we were like trying to see what the rest of the, wild
collective
web
had to say.
had to
Yeah.
say about dharma, because we have, I feel like this idea of what dharma is to me has been created from many different people's perspectives of dharma, and
Mhm.
it's evolving just like we are, that idea. And each time you go through a different phase of your life, I think you evolve in what your alignment is with the world, what you have to provide, and how
Yeah.
you're living in alignment, right?
Yeah, exactly. We've all been through all the phases where we decide that we want to be this and now we want to be this and we want to be this. But that's exactly what it takes to find your soul's purpose. You have
Mm-hmm.
to go out and experiment and try all the different things that make you happy. And a lot of the times, what I've found is that your soul's purpose comes from your childhood and what you loved most during that time. Like I remember that, like you, one of my favorite things to do was help people. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember specifically in my middle school years a lot, I was the mom out of the friend group. I was the therapist. I was the counselor. I was the one who gave everyone the advice. And you know what I do now? I'm an energy coach because that's what makes me so happy.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, yeah. I was always the friend that people would, shit, strangers come up to me sometimes and
Yeah.
just start talking to me.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, This
Uh-huh.
actually happened to me the other day in the grocery store. This woman was like talking to me about something on the shelf, but then she started talking to me about something not related to food. And I was just like, I feel like you really need someone to talk to.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I
Isn't
wanted
that
to be like,
funny?
damn, I wish I have a business card or something. I could be like, I feel like you
Yeah.
really just need someone to talk to. And like, here's my card.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Isn't that so funny? And that's what we mean by living in alignment. When things
Yeah.
like that happen, it's because when you are centered, you will bring all of that right to you. There
Hmm.
is, you have to put in work. Don't get me
Hmm.
wrong. There is work involved, but the universe will provide for you. And that is a beautiful example of that.
And honestly, the biggest amount of work is every day working to be present in yourself enough to know what you truly do like
Hmm.
align with. What is your
Right.
alignment, right? So my alignment is aligning with it, what is in my heart. That's what it means. Like to live in alignment is to truly listen to the internal radar that's going off every day saying like, yeah, you want to go home and you want to do this. And like, maybe not even on a day to day, because I guess that feels too minute to minute. Like alignment can be dissected to a minute to minute basis, but
Hmm.
it's less about thinking and overthinking about it. And it's actually more about not thinking so much about it and just feeling
Yeah.
and just
Hmm.
seeing how you feel when you do things and being reinforced and validated by your experiences, like you just said. So I had
Hmm.
this experience at the grocery store, and that's validating my internalness where I'm always like, I want to help people. This is what I want to do. And I can't really explain why, besides it's how I feel inside. And that's what I feel is my thing. Right. And then it's
Hmm.
validated by an experience, a random experience in the grocery store where you're like, maybe
Yeah.
was this my purpose? Well, that feels like a pretty clear sign that, yeah, like people feel comfortable talking to me. So maybe something to do with helping people talk through their feelings or whatever that's going to then look like. So the work is paying attention.
Exactly. It's
And like
that
you said,
easy.
going out and being present during your experiences so that you see where the validation comes. Does the validation come from maybe you are a leader? Maybe your job that you've been doing for 30 years is your Dharma. I mean, we're not trying to say that you haven't found it yourself. Like, but if you're feeling
Yeah.
unsatisfied and you're feeling that call to leave your job, like this mass resignation is, like these people are talking about, everyone is feeling this giant urge to leave their job,
Hmm.
that is
Right.
a sign that you are needing a change. It might not be a dramatic, I used to be an engineer and now I'm a barista. Like it might not be that dramatic, but it might look pretty dramatic to somebody else. And everybody's is going to look different. Somebody's might look
Hmm.
dramatic and somebody's might be like, yeah, I've always wanted to be a teacher, but this job is just not for me. Like, even if you're a teacher, like maybe there's just a better place for you to be teaching. There's something more. Or maybe you were
Yeah.
a teacher for 20 years and that was your purpose and that evolved with you. So when you retired, now you have something else to give the collective because you have grown as a person yourself. And as you
Right.
grow, your Dharma grows and your Dharma evolves with you. What you can provide to people evolves as you evolve, right?
Exactly. And you can still be a teacher. It's just that what if you were meant to teach something else too?
Mm-hmm.
There are so
Yeah,
many possibilities. What feels right to you?
it might not even be teacher route. It might be like
Hmm.
some people go into motherhood, being parents,
Yeah.
right? It might
Your
look like your
dharma,
Dharma. Go ahead.
exactly. It could very well be being a mother. Like my mom in particular, I know that her soul's purpose is to be a mother. That is the only thing that I have ever gotten from her. Is my mom has always been the friend group of the mom, and that's why I am the way that I am.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes sense to me. Like my best friend out in Wyoming, she feels to me like she was just born to be a mother. And there
Mm-hmm.
is nothing wrong with that. There is
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. That is a beautiful thing.
Well, and then when they're done being a mother, they feel lost in that call. But that I think is the challenge when you're feeling lost in your call or like you have completed your purpose, so to speak. It's time to reflect inward and see what the next call is. And the next call might
Yeah.
just be taking care of yourself and
Mhm.
evolving yourself so that you can evolve into the next phase of what you're going to offer the world and how you're going to provide and make this place that we're living on more fair ground and peaceful for all of us to live together. Because a lot
Absolutely.
of, I feel like my goals too, and my purposes too, is to help others heal so that we can live, coexist together.
Mm, mhm. Oh, yeah, that's a big calling,
Mm-hmm.
and that carries a lot of weight too.
It definitely does. I mean, it's part of why when people are like, why does that weigh so heavily on you? I'm like, I honestly don't know why XYZ about the world stresses me out so much. Besides, I have so much compassion for people. I think it's because I can see now. I have so much compassion for people who have trauma that's unhealed. I don't see it anymore as like that's an evil person. It's just all I see is their trauma. I like look at a person that's just like, some would call names that I don't really want to say, but like, when you look at that person and you actually speak with that person, and especially when that person attacks you, especially when that person has a problem with you, they're so hurt. They're so hurting inside and they need to heal. And it almost makes me want to help them more. Like
Yeah, oh my gosh, exactly.
almost, because it has to come from them.
Exactly.
But at least you continuing to live and be existing in your Dharma sometimes is helping others because they
Mhm,
realize how simple that can look, how
mhm,
easy it can be, even though the hardest part is saying no to the pressure that has been a learned pressure. That's a learned stress. We're not born and all of a sudden stressed to be in society. That's a learned
mhm.
behavior.
Yeah. Yeah, and
And
you know what that
especially,
means?
yeah, go ahead.
You can unlearn it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we can choose better things for ourselves when it comes to what we spend our energy on, what we bring our attention to, how we think about ourselves and the
Mhm,
pressures. And although stress can't always be controlled, you can choose how you channel that stress and
mhm.
hopefully work through it in a way that allows for you to feel empowered by it instead of
Exactly.
victimized by it,
Exactly.
or instead of a victim from it. Yeah. So if you're wondering about where to find your Dharma, I think you kind of talked about that.
Mhm.
It could be something maybe reflecting back to when you were a kid. Maybe dig up those old home ec home and careers. I remember my home ec class. We had, it was in like fifth or sixth grade or something, and we had like a project where we did a whole thing about our careers and we made a poster about what we wanted to be. Dig that up, see if that's still there. Call your parents
Oh.
up, see what you ask your mom, what did I used to say I always wanted to be when I grew up? When I was a kid, what did I talk about? Like if you can't
Mhm.
remember, ask your mom, like ask your siblings, ask somebody who you grew up with, like see if you can dive back in and find it. And if that's not the case, maybe just see if you feel like you're so far from that, if you have evolved so far from that, which I know that's for me. I've thought that I was giving up on my nursing career by pursuing other health related helping people careers. And I realized that I evolved from my role as a bedside nurse, and
Mhm. Mhm.
doing that, although it feels good because I'm helping people, it also feels out of alignment because I know now that that's something I did and I did really well and it taught me so much, but I evolved out of that. And if I go back into if I've evolved past it and I go regress and I go back, it's not going to help my healing. It's actually going to just cause me unhappiness, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah, it will
going to
hinder
help.
it.
And there could be a
Mhm.
time where I evolve again and do want to go back, like I'm not
Right.
leaving that, I'm not closing that door. And you shouldn't close any doors for yourself once you've evolved out of a certain thing. Or maybe it's just the call to start something on the side. Maybe you do
Mhm.
love your job, but you also feel that there's this calling that you've also felt for a long time but never paid any attention to. Maybe this is now time. This is a little, here's your sign. Hello, knock knock.
Mhm. Mhm.
Please think
Like,
about what. Go ahead. Uh-oh, no, frozen. You got to think about what that might be when she comes back. Hopefully she can tell us. No, internet. Uh, yeah, maybe see if there's something on the side that you could start to and get the ball rolling and start to experiment. There she is. It's okay.
hello. I am back.
Were you gonna say something?
Yes, I was, but let me tell you what, I was
It's
frozen
gone.
for a minute. It's gone.
It's okay. I was just saying, like, start that side biz or start that side project that you've always felt called to starting and see where that goes.
Yes,
You
that's
would be
what I
so
was gonna say.
surprised, right?
That's what I was gonna say. The fact that out of nowhere, my schedule got dropped down from 5 days to 2 days this week. And let me tell you, I was not terrified for my paycheck. I was excited because I knew that that was my sign to get on here and start dedicating myself more to this that's going on. And I am
Mhm.
so glad that I got that opportunity to spend my week dedicating all of my research and all of my writing and all of that to this. I was so excited. And I hope that I get more days like this where I can dedicate myself to it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. And I mean, there's so much more that we want to offer besides the podcast. So I think that's a big thing too, with this opening up time for you to spend some time not only brainstorming, but putting action to the brainstorm, right? Like
Yeah,
we can
exactly.
feel like, oh, I feel like I'm supposed to help people and then be like, oh, that's great. And then just like move on with our lives, or we can like try to work towards that passion. And then
Yeah.
once we start to work towards it, it's just amazing how exponentially it grows because when you're working with the universe and when you're working with your purpose in alignment with what feels good and what really is in your heart, it just that exponential growth is just because of the lack of resistance. So it feels like bigger
Mhm.
growth and it feels like bigger milestones, even when it's going to feel more like a soul hit than it is like a, oh my gosh, I just made
Exactly.
I just made $1,000 in a minute. Like it's not going to feel like, oh my gosh, I just won the lotto. It's going to feel like the good.
Bigger. It's going to
Yeah.
feel bigger than that. It's going to feel deeper. It's going to feel right. And you are going to feel this happiness that you never knew that you could feel.
Mm-hmm. And then comes the stress because you have to now continue to decide and choose, right? To keep
Mhm.
going for your passion that might not be validated by the external.
Mhm.
Your Dharma is truly only going to be validated by yourself
Yeah,
because when
exactly.
you're doing it, you're going to feel the validation.
Exactly. You will know. You will know. There will not be a question in your head. I mean, there might be a little tiny voice saying, are you sure? Can you really do this? No, screw that voice. You can do this.
Well, the voice is hard to shut up because let's be real, however long you've been alive, maybe past the age 5, is how long that voice has been reinstilled in your brain.
Yeah.
How many years you've been alive in this society and with the conditioning of this society
Mhm.
is the stress and the challenge that you're going to feel every day to choose to go against that because
Right.
that's against your comfort, even though it's not what's programmed or whatever has been set up for you and to be best for you. It's still here to teach you how powerful your choices are. And
Mhm.
once you make that choice, it was like once I quit my job this time last year.
Oh my gosh.
And I know, crazy, right?
Wow.
Like literally like December 30th last year, I quit my hospital job and I started travel nursing. Yeah. And that change, I was terrified. I wrote my 2 week notice and I was like gonna vomit, just like holding it. I was like, I need to like, this is, it felt like it was a piece of paper and it felt like it weighed 100 pounds. Like I was holding it in my hand, like waiting to give it to my manager. And it was just like
It
insane.
takes
And
that
then when I
one
did
moment
it,
of bravery.
the second that I did it though and walked away, it was like I was walking across the platform of my nursing ceremony, getting my degree handed to me. That's the amount of like, oh my God, you did it.
Like, yes,
It was
yes,
just
this
like,
is right. This is good.
I felt like it was so powerful. And then from there, it's just the amount that I've grown from that and the amount that my life has changed and how different it looks. And some people would think that it went backwards, especially because right now I'm sitting in my parents' house where I live, right? I live with my parents right now. And people would be like, you live with your parents? That's a giant step back. And I'm like, honestly, it's not because it has allowed for me to take
Yeah,
leaps forward in my healing, leaps forward
exactly.
in finding my Dharma, and leaps forward in my joy. I have never been happier than I am now.
Exactly. Do what you need to do to get there.
Mhm. And I don't even feel like it's not like I've been happy, but it's like never have I felt more wanting to be on this earth. I think when you're aligned with your purpose and with what feels good in your
Mhm.
heart, you don't
Mhm.
question why you're here,
Yeah.
right? We don't question why we're born. We don't question why we go through shit, why we struggle, why life is so hard. We start to realize why it's so hard because
Yeah.
there's this other programming, there's this other pressure that comes
Mhm.
from outside of us
Yeah.
that we subconsciously align with when we're kids
Mhm.
because we don't know anything else. We're not taught how to deal with our emotions. We're not taught how to listen to what our spirituality is. I mean, our ancestors left the European countries to come here for freedom to practice their religious spirituality. And yet we came here and I feel like we shoved our religion in a box. And then we said, you have to do this or else you're not like us. And
Mhm.
you don't deserve to live if you don't believe what we live. So we're going to just make you whatever. We're going to do whatever we want with you, you know?
Mhm.
And then came the hierarchy of labeling ourselves as better so that we felt better, like better than other people, so that we felt better than others. And that somehow making others feel small makes us feel big instead of making ourselves feel what we truly feel, you know, that
Mhm.
conquering game. I think we came over here and we're so focused on conquering the new world that we forgot how to feel and we forgot
Yeah.
what it's like for those
Yeah.
people that we took over and for all that stuff. I feel like we should have maybe talked about this closer to Thanksgiving. It would have felt a little
Yeah.
more relevant, but
That's all right. We are channeling.
I
What
think that's
comes
why
is
this
meant to
is,
come.
yeah, I think that's why this is coming through actually, is
Mhm.
because I've been thinking about this for the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And that's what's been my resolution of that is that to honor the people's, and I say people's because technically they're a part of us, but the peoples that we took and did whatever we did, whatever our ancestors did, that's not necessarily our responsibility. But what is our responsibility is to recognize that our ancestors did what they did. And that is the result of the world that we live in.
Mhm.
And to be present in this world and to be present to want change in this world, it's our responsibility to figure out where we
How
went,
to do that.
where it's skewed, right? And
Mhm.
how to come back to providing ourselves with happiness, because if we were searching for freedom and happiness, we're only going to find that when we are free to choose what's inside of us and free to choose
Mhm.
this choice, what feels good for me.
Yeah.
If I can choose this 100 times and have everybody in society backing that choice that comes from me, that would be freedom.
That would be monumental. That would be
Freedom to
huge.
choose, right? Like if you could tell your kids, oh, I wanted to be an astronaut. You can be an astronaut, honey. Do you want to be an astronaut because you want to explore? Do you want to do this because you feel like there's greater things to learn instead of just telling your kid that's a stupid dream? You should be something else. Like teach them about the galaxy, teach them about what they're
Mhm.
curious about and see what
Yeah.
comes from that. Like foster
Exactly.
these beautiful seeds that are innocent, the
And
innocence that comes with kids, we don't foster that. We stomp all over it. It's crazy, right? Like,
exactly. But another very important part of that
mhm.
is feeding into your children and helping them pursue the dreams that they want. And if they change their mind, that's okay.
Yeah,
That's
supporting
okay
that
because
too.
exactly, you supported them and helped them figure out what they didn't want to do. And
Yeah.
that's perfectly fine. That's what happened with me and my parents. My parents supported me so much with singing and they pushed me and everything worked out beautifully and then I changed my mind. And they
Mm.
were really supportive of that too, even after that whole many years long endeavor. And I'm so
Yeah.
thankful for that that they just let me quit. They just let me stop because that was an incredible gift. I feel
Yeah.
like I got very lucky there. And I hope that more parents can learn from that.
Yeah, I think it's really hard because when you make those choices where it's like, oh, this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity, and then you have to like choose to turn it down or not, and you're thinking to yourself, well, like, how could I let such a great opportunity pass you by? What you have to realize in that moment, it's like that's bait. That's like bait from
Uh,
the universe being like, are you gonna
uh-huh.
bite off this juicy thing that we're waving in front of you that looks really juicy? Or are you gonna listen to your heart and choose what you know is good with your heart? And if you
Mhm.
say no to that thing that doesn't align with your heart, trusting that the actual thing that's going to dangle in front of you the next time or whenever it comes next, like as soon as you say no to what's not meant for you, you allow for the thing that is meant for you to come to you, right? And you make room for that.
Exactly.
You say yes to something that's not meant for you, and now you're committed to that thing. If something else were to present itself to you, you're not going to be able to say yes to it
Exactly.
because you're busy with the thing you've already,
Exactly.
right? Like, yeah.
I'm so
So,
thankful
mm-hmm.
for turning that down because I would never be where I am now. And I know
Yeah.
that where I am now, I am way happier than I ever would have been with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even
Even
though
like
it
your
was really
mom.
hard to see in the moment,
Mm-hmm.
that's okay because now I can look back and I'm like, thank God.
Yeah. Even your
Thank
mom
God I am.
supporting you is amazing. Like, your family is not always going to support you, but know that the people who believe in you and truly believe in you and truly believe that in this theory too, in this Dharma, that we are here for a reason. And although it can't be scientifically proven, that's like something that when you feel it in your heart and in your soul, you just know. You don't need science to prove it. You don't need, the proof is in the validation, like I said, that you feel internally. So if you feel
Yeah,
like you're like, oh, why should I listen to these people? Like, go try it out for yourself. See if you feel it.
exactly.
Like,
Hmm.
you don't
Do
have to
it.
take our word for it. Like, go try it out for yourself. And if you're really struggling to figure it out, like, we would love to help you. But to be
Yeah.
honest with you, it's going to be from inside. It's going to be us
Hmm.
guiding you inward and
Exactly.
teaching you how to listen to that voice that you have suppressed for so long.
We are here to help show you you,
Mm-hmm. And
plain
to
and
really
simple.
shine a light on your heart, right? And I mean
Yeah.
your heart, like I say heart, and I keep touching my upper heart space because with Reiki, the upper heart chakra is like truly with Dharma and your purpose and stuff like that. And I just keep touching it just to like, I feel so passionately about that. And the knowing that when you're like, I've just seen it happen with so many people in the smallest shift, your mindset can change everything. You
Baby steps.
can, right? Like you can at least shift from this job doesn't align for me. And that shift in and of itself, you thinking about that, you're not going to be able to ignore it anymore. And that's what I hope to come from this
Mhm.
episode. People to have thoughts
Mhm.
come up that previously they've never thought about, but now cannot ignore because it's going to speak
Yeah.
truth. How strong when that internal voice comes through and it speaks to you, you can't ignore it because it's just so like, I don't even know, like, what do you want to call it? It's
It's
just so
passion.
direct. Yeah,
It's
it's like,
passion.
yeah, I don't know how else to describe it, but I know for me, it's what keeps me going every day. And even when I'm back and forth, Faith will tell you, I'm back and forth every single day. I'm back and forth about whether or not I'm going back to the bedside
Mhm.
nursing and whether or
Mhm.
not I need to keep doing XYZ to do that. And at the end of the day, I if I sit down and sit with it and I listen to my heart, it's always about something more than bedside nursing. Bedside nursing might be part of it, but there's
Mhm.
more. So if that's what it is for you, if you're sitting there like this, what my job feels like it's part of it, but it feels like there's more. Don't ignore that. Really dive into
Exactly.
that, right? Like get in there
Exactly.
and see how it grows and tell us what it is. We'd love to hear it, like how that changes for you and how it's going to look different from person to person. Your dharma might be that you are more, you're better at whatever, like the gift thing, like that you're given with these gifts. And when you start to work with them, you're going to grow your gift. So I forget, there was one of my friends was really good at organizing. And she's like, this was something I was always naturally good at. And now I've done a training class to get better at it. I've gotten better at my gift in this thing that I was naturally good at. I enhanced by doing practice and research and getting better at, right? So you can always enhance your gifts too. It's not something that's just going to be like, oh, this is like magical, it's going to be drawn to you, but you have to do the work to develop your gift. You have
Yeah.
to do the work to develop it so that it can benefit you in our society.
Right. Exactly. I also wanted to mention that along with baby steps, that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
dedicating my free time to living my soul's purpose but in the meantime, this isn't providing any financial stability for me, so I do still have to keep my day job. And
Mhm.
eventually, I know that it'll get to that point where I don't have to worry about my day job. Like, I don't like going to work every day, but I still do it because it's a part of what I have to do to get to that point where I can live this every day. And there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And I truly think that having multiple, like like sources of income is
Mhm.
a good thing because I think it makes you value your time more. You start
Yeah.
to realize if I spend 4 hours or whatever and I get paid like minimum wage or whatever at this job and doing your work, your soul's work, you're like, well, if I got paid this much to do this job, it doesn't need to pay me. It like pays for itself, so to speak, right?
Right.
So
Right. Exactly.
as soon as it does start to pay for itself, when you spend the time developing your gift, you'll
Mhm.
find something that it can be used to help or whatever it can be used for to help support you. So the more you
Mhm.
support and funnel into your passions and your gifts, the more they're going to put out for you. So if you're doing it part-time, expect a part-time output from it. What you put
Yeah.
in is what you get out.
Mhm.
It's not
Mhm.
going to grow itself.
Right,
You have to
exactly.
continue.
That's where that little bit of work comes in, that work that you have to do to get to doing something like that full time.
And as per usual, this message is not just for you guys, it's for me.
And for me as well.
Yeah. I think that's what's so beautiful about when we come on to talk to each other is that typically we don't really know what we're going to talk about. We have ideas, but we start talking about stuff and then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm fired up about this. Let's talk about this
Yeah.
today. And we would love to hear what more you guys would like to hear about. I feel like this might be, do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I don't think so. I think that we hit all the points that I had thought about today.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, me too. I feel really good about what we shared today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And thank you for joining us. As per usual, if you have been listening, please let us know what you think. We would love to hear from you. Message us on social media,
Thank you
Gmail, or
for
whatever.
coming.
We have our mail. Yeah, thank you for listening, YouTube. We just appreciate you for being here and know
We
that the
do.
more we receive from you guys feedback wise too does help us honor
That's
our
our
purpose.
fire.
Mm.
Mhm.
Please continue to recycle that fire as we continue to give it to you back or give it back to you. And, as per usual, hope you have a blessed rest of your evening, rest of your day, rest of the week, whatever, whenever this reaches you. I hope that
Mhm.
it provides a nice little lesson, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, blessed be. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.